I am gaveling the council out of the executive session. And at this time, I would like to ask Councilmember Roman Garcia to lead us in the invocation and pledge of allegiance. Would you please stand?
And if you would please bow your head, and I invite you to pray in your faith and tradition as I pray in mine. Dear Lord, thank you for your love and the abundant blessings that you've bestowed upon our people, our city, our state, and our nation. I thank you for life itself, for the measure of health that you provided all of us to fulfill our callings. We thank you for the ability to be involved in public service and the honor of bearing the responsibilities entrusted to us by the citizens. I thank you and I ask for blessings on the people who have been called to lead the community in which we live, work, and play, the mayor and city council members, our city manager, our city attorney, city secretary, and all the staff members and officials who work in the various levels of our city. I ask that you continue to guide us and work through us for your glory and for the betterment of Kerrville as a whole. I ask that you graciously grant us the wisdom to govern amid the conflicts, the conflicting interests and the issues of our times, a sense of welfare and the true needs of our people, the confidence to do what's right, good, and the ability to work together in harmony even when there's honest disagreement. Remind us that we're not only leaders, but also servants to the people, and it's our responsibility to serve the common good of all. May we speak out when it's time to speak out, and listen patiently and receptively when it's time to listen. May we always be guided by the spirit of community, spirit of justice, and the spirit of love. And I also ask that we be reminded that no matter where we live, everyone is our neighbor and our brother and sister through Christ, all of whom we should love and respect. And lastly, Lord, I thank you for this holiday, this Christmas season. I pray everyone has a blessed and joyful time celebrating with their family, friends, and loved ones, and has a very happy New Year. I pray all this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
And if you'll join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If anyone present wants to speak on an agenda item, they need to sign up and present a speaker request form to the city secretary in advance of the item being read into the record by the city secretary. When speakers are called, they are to come to the microphone and begin by stating their name and address for the record. Note that public comment periods are for council to set aside time to specifically hear from you. Any questions that you might have will not be responded to until after public comments have concluded. And thank you for making this a good meeting. Now, we have items of community interest.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. Welcome to everybody tonight to this last City Council meeting of 2021. Before I begin, I want to make sure I point out the artwork that's up here. We put out a call for art from area children, and they answered. So we have 39 drawings up there. So I encourage everybody to check it out after the meeting, see a name that you know, and tell them thank you very much. Great job. All right, if you'll look up there, City Council had a very busy morning last Thursday. Had 6 ribbon cuttings. 5 of them associated with new murals around town. As you can see, we have one at the parking garage, one at the tennis complex, 2 at the Olympic pool, and one at the River Trail where it goes under Highway 27. Those are all in conjunction with Big Seed and with help and funding from KPUB, HEB, the Community Foundation. Am I leaving anybody out on that? In the city, yes. In the city. So a lot going on. Really enjoyed seeing those around town. They're very pretty. I encourage everybody to get out and see them. And then we also have a new playground at the soccer field, which we had a ribbon cutting there as well. And that was courtesy of the Callow Foundation. So a lot going on there. As I said, this will be the last meeting, so we want to go ahead and let everybody know that the City of Kerrville municipal offices, including the City Secretary's office, will be closed next Thursday and Friday in observance of the Christmas holiday, and then the following Friday on December 31st in observance of the New Year holiday. So keep that in mind. Parks and Recreation Department office will be located at Kerrville Shrine Park, will be closed on Christmas Day and New Year's Day. Finally, we want to say Merry Christmas to everyone. It's been a tough year in many respects. We had a winter storm here in February that nobody in Kerrville would ever expect to happen. Continuing to deal with COVID, and I hope that we can all offer up a prayer for a better 2022. And let's all get there together by having a very safe and happy holiday season. So with that, I'm going to turn it over. I don't know if y'all have any announcements up there.
Anybody?
Stuart. I think we should just note that Councilman Hughes has a granddaughter who has done several.
Half of the ones up
drawings
here.
over here. So,
Hey, I didn't think they'd make it up here because her mom is not quite as Christmas spirited as I am. But I walked in tonight and there were 5 pictures up there for my granddaughter, so she's 4 years old, Audrey
Good
Hughes.
job.
Please take a look at them. She colored within the lines.
Good. All right, we have some recognitions. I would like to ask those representing the Kroc Center, if you would please come forward. Now, tell us your name and your position at the Kroc Center.
Yes, I am Molly Putnam. I am the operations director at the Kroc Center.
All right.
Yes.
All right. That's a busy place.
Yes, it is, especially right now. I'm sorry I'm the only one to be here tonight, but we are spread thin everywhere this holiday season. Yes.
Well, the City of Kerrville recognizes the Salvation Army's Ray and Joan Kroc Center with the December 14, 2021 Kerrville Kindness Award. For many years, the Salvation Army's Ray and Joan Kroc Center in Kerrville has prepared hot Thanksgiving holiday meals from its Holsworth Drive location. This year, the Kroc Center served up more than 800 meals between dine-in, delivery, to-go orders, and interstate rest stop service. 9 restaurants donated all food items served in the main meal, with more than 75 turkeys cooked and deboned in-house. The massive effort utilized the help of more than 120 volunteers who responded to the center's call for help in the weeks preceding the holiday. The Kerrville Kindness Program offers a sincere thank you to the Kroc Center for its commitment and dedication to serving the Kerrville community. Congratulations. Let's get a few pictures. Thank you. Extend our thanks to the staff.
Will do, yes, thank you.
Okay. Now, is Pam Bressler here? Yes, good. We put on a call for Christmas poetry. And I'm going to present a proclamation. And then would you read your poem for us?
I got you.
Okay. All right, the City of Kerrville Proclamation. Whereas the first citywide poem search for a poet who could capture the essence and awe of a Christmas in Kerrville began on the 15th of November, 2021. And whereas the citizens of Kerrville came together and shared their written memories, thoughts, visions, and stories into beautifully written poems celebrating a Christmas in Kerrville. And of the 11 submitted poems, 3 were selected as finalists. And whereas the citizens of Kerrville were instrumental in coming together to select their favorite of the 3 poems that best captures and describes what a Christmas in Kerrville is all about. And whereas sincere gratitude is extended to Pam Bressler, who has given her talent to the citizens of Kerrville by capturing the true joy and spirit of a Christmas in Kerrville for this and future generations to enjoy. Now, therefore, I, Bill Blackburn, Mayor of the City of Kerrville, Texas, do hereby proclaim on Tuesday, December 14, 2021, the poem Christmas in Kerrville, Stars Over Kerrville, as the official 2021 Christmas in Kerrville poem, and encourage all citizens to join me in celebrating the written talents of Pam Bressler. Now, we've got this framed up. I'm gonna put this right here, and would you read it for us?
All right, I'd be happy to. The night I wrote this, I was out in the backyard looking at the Big Dipper and the North Star and realizing we were really blessed to live in a place where we still have a dark sky. So thus the title, Stars Over Kerrville. On a cold, clear, starry night, Kerrville sleeps in peace and light. Our Guadalupe River never sleeps, but through the hill country it slowly creeps. Kayaking, canoeing, fishing, and more provide all ages with fun galore. Tranquility Island glows with lights, a community effort, Kerrville's holiday delight. A vibrant music scene, theater, murals, art, brew pubs, history tours, and citizens with heart. Another time, so very long ago, hills were dotted with sheep and snow. A starry night proclaimed his birth, while shepherds and kings knelt on earth. Today the North Star leads the way to the empty cross, where many pray. Kerrville was touched by God's holy grace, while we are blessed to live in this place.
Picture. Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, here's this box is for the
Oh, okay.
plaque.
Well, this is beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Let me just say very quickly, this story has been often told, but in 1885, 4 women in this community determined that they would raise money to build a church for several different denominations. Now, 1884, St. Peter's Episcopal Church had a building, but that building for the community was dedicated December 24th, 1885. And that building is the Union Church building that's on the Shriner campus. All right. Visitor Citizens Forum, do we have anyone signed up?
Yes, sir, we have two.
Okay.
Marvin Willis.
You're okay? Thank you for letting me appear, Mayor and Council. As you can, well, you can't see on the form, but what I'm here to address is shop local, okay? In Kerr County, we have $250 million leaving Kerr County every year just going to Amazon. That's just Amazon alone, okay? Now imagine what we could do if we could keep some of that money home. And the main reason why that money is going is because it's just so easy to order on Amazon. Everybody here orders on Amazon because it just shows up in the mail, right?
Right.
Okay, our citizens here, most of them don't have the technology to compete with Amazon. Well, that's where I come in. I can literally create their own Amazon program, and we can set up these QR codes. Now, I sent some up there for you to look at. Okay, when you scan that, they'll go to a landing page where each one of these businesses will have their own online store. Okay, and so that our local customers can purchase at home instead of online. Now, the reason why I believe this will work is because I own the Hill Country Visitor magazine, okay? Now, in the Hill Country Visitor magazine, if you scan my QR code, all through the magazine, I have a win button where people click on the win button by scanning this QR code, okay, to get to the magazine in the first place. They click on the win button and it goes to a landing page. And if you guys got a phone, you can scan this and see how it works because it's pretty simple to do. It'll reach from there. But anyway, so you scan this thing and it goes to a landing page and you're able to share the advertisement in my magazine. Now I'm collecting the emails of each people that do that, and I'm offering a $25 gift card to those who win. And you would not believe how that works. Now, that stumbled on to the idea of creating an automated shop local program where I also own Mobile Mags, which is a nationwide landing page for like Better Homes and Gardens and Auto Trader and Apartment Magazine, Senior News, all those different kinds, 170 magazines. And so what I'll do is I'll put a catalog on that landing page. And what I'm wanting the city to do, now I'm doing all this talking when really what I want to do is have a meeting with you guys where we can talk about this. But I passed out some QR codes that are up there. And yes, sir. And those QR codes would be put around the city where people could see that if they scan that they could shop local. And everybody knows today what a QR code is, right? Everybody, pretty much 99% of all phones will scan it with their camera. You scan it, a link comes up. Now, the reason why it's set up the way it is there in that photo that I sent you is because people will trust it, okay? Because it's the city of Kerrville, right? Now, I took at least 70% of the graphics out to make it legal to plagiarize your logo, okay? So I know I'm legal to do it, but I wouldn't do it without permission, okay? But the point is if we would put these on the sidewalks around town where people could find them, and they could, like on the river trail or wherever, not only would it work for the local shoppers to be able to find online shopping, because that's what they want to do. Okay, that's proof when you see $250 million going to Amazon. Okay, now there's some huge advantages of online shopping local. Many of you know that when you order on Amazon, you have to return it. It's the wrong size. It was the wrong product. They sent you two. And so what do you got to do? You got to drive downtown, put it in the box for it to be sent back, right? And then wait. But if you order online locally and you drive downtown, you can actually just exchange it right there. So there's some huge advantages. Now, with this program, it automates the system where we don't have to have a manager who manages it, okay? That takes the cost of the city completely out. And so the only thing I'm looking for is kind of a private-public partnership with you guys to be able to post it, okay? We have the ability to promote it. With the Hill Country Visitor Magazine, reach over 100,000 people a month. With the mobile mags, I'm reaching 160,000 people a month. So nationally, we can promote it. The other thing is, when a visitor comes to town, what do? We take them to Gibson's, don't we? We go in, hey, this is a great store. Now, when that visitor leaves, can he still buy from Gibson's? No, Gibson's doesn't have an online store, do they? Like 99% of everybody in town, they don't have an online store. Well, we have the technology to create that very simply.
I'm gonna have to ask you to close it out,
Okay.
but somebody will be in touch with you.
Well, that's all I want. I want
Yeah.
a chance to sit down with you guys and show you exactly how this works. Now, if you scan it, you can kind of get a sample of
Yeah.
how simple it is. But
Okay.
it doesn't require employees.
All right,
It doesn't
all right.
cost the city any money, and it brings money back to Kerrville.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nikki Keynes.
Nikki Keynes, 1809 Mountain Laurel. I see here that you have a very full agenda again tonight, but I would like to go back to two items that were on the agenda at the November 9th meeting that, for all appearances, seem to be avoided. They were both under the consideration possible action. The one was brought on by a citizen who wanted to know the legal definition or the legal clarification for the next election's date. There was a lot of opinion expressed. There was back and forth. But Mayor, you made a motion to just pass on to the next item on the agenda.
Mhm.
Councilman Garcia said, well, we haven't really came to the conclusion of this. We haven't come to an answer. That's when the city attorney stepped in and not once, but probably twice, recommended or at least asked if you wanted to go into executive session. You did not. And then, Mayor, you made a motion to let's see exactly what you said. Made a motion to move to the next item.
Mhm.
You then went to a 5-minute bathroom break. During that bathroom break, there were several of us in this council chambers who saw a very awkward confrontation initiated by the city attorney with Councilman Garcia. We saw it and it left a few of us very uneasy. Second agenda item was one that I had already addressed twice to this council, and it had to do with your procedural rules. Again, it was taken to executive session. When you came back, you said, meeting's adjourned.
Mhm.
From a voter standpoint, those were two actions that were not met with any real answers. And when it came to the procedural rules, it was apparent, at least to me, from your voices and your physical demeanor, that you were uninterested in even addressing this issue. So as a voter, I'd like to know, when are these two items going to be addressed in public and give the public answers and do your job?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And that's
Okay,
the end of the speakers.
yeah. All right, moving on, we come to the consent agenda. And all of these items are considered together unless councilperson or an individual citizen asks for one of them to be pulled. Do we have a motion on the consent agenda
Oh, well, I'll request to remove 4E.
for E?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Okay, do I have a motion regarding for A, B, C, D, and F?
I move that we accept them as presented.
I'll second.
Okay, motion second. All in favor, let it be known by the raised hands, and it carries unanimously. Okay, Mr. Garcia.
Thank you. 4E is the minutes of the regular meeting, November 9th, 2021. Just have two corrections on that. Well, first of all, I would like to point out that I did notice it was titled on our agenda as the City Council Workshop held November 9th, 2021. And I refreshed my page today and it was changed. So it seems that we have, it's very technical, and I don't mean to get this technical, but it's legally challenging to have that item listed there within the 72-hour notice and then change it after that notice has been posted. So, but with that said, I would like to make two corrections to the minutes. One is on, you have a handout that was provided to you and at your place. But the first amendment is just a correction in the name. Councilmember Hughes actually made this motion, and not Councilmember Eichner. So my proposal is to strike and strike Eichner and insert Hughes in that line. And then my second amendment is to actually insert, because it's something that we always do anytime we have a recess or go into executive session or adjourn, it's always inserted what time we recessed or adjourned. And so I would ask to put in almost the exact same way it's written in the minutes, the way it's there, that I have provided on your handout. So with that said, I'll move to approve the minutes with the two amendments proposed in the handout.
I'll second that.
Okay, got a motion and a second. All in favor, let it be known by the raised hands, and it is unanimous.
Mayor, can I make one point though?
Yeah.
The agenda is allowed to be changed after you've posted, but it states that you have to modify it. And if you look and see the agenda that's posted, it does state it's the modified date and time. Not on the packet, but on our website, and the posted one on the bulletin board.
Okay.
And so that's legal. If you have to change something, you have to designate your change.
Yeah, and I
in this
actually spoke with Shelley
I
and
noticed that
brought
too.
this
Okay.
to her
Yeah, and I talked
attention
to EA about
well
that.
before the meeting, and that's why
I
she
did too,
modified
yeah.
it.
Okay. All right.
Modified today at 1:45 p.m. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
You're welcome.
Okay. Item 5A, would you read that in, Ms. McLennan?
Yes, sir. Resolution number 53-2021. A resolution granting a conditional use permit to authorize a short-term rental unit on the property comprising Lot A, Block C, Cage Edition, and more commonly known as 820 Robinson Avenue. Said property is located within a single-family residential with accessory dwelling unit zoning district R-1A, and making said permit subject to conditions and restrictions. There are no citizen speakers signed up, however, this is a public hearing.
Yeah. Okay.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is a request for a conditional use permit for a short-term rental at 820 Robinson. This property actually is multiple units. There are 3 structures on this property with a total of 4 units, grandfathered from previous construction. As you can see from kind of the aerial photo, It is a very large property, so the density really is no different than if it were 4 separate lots like you see across the street and further down that block. Here's a map showing the short-term rental units within the area. The blue one is right in the top center of the screen, is the one today. The red are approved by conditional use permit, and the green ones have been grandfathered and active prior to 2019 zoning code adoption. There's a little closer view. There are 3 others within the immediate area. Here's the location of their parking. They'll be working on doing future improvements, and staff will work with them, make sure those parking improvements have been completed prior to opening and operating the short-term rental unit. But they do have ample space for parking for those units. On December 2nd, Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval. Excuse me, not December 2nd. November P&Z recommended approval of the case, and I'd be pleased to answer any questions before or after the public hearing.
Now, that is a nice combination of buildings right there, and a lot of potential. In fact, that whole area is just ripe for coming in and redoing for rental or purchase or whatever. Interesting houses right in there.
As I was, to that point, as I was driving by checking kind of the parking situation for this one, the one right across the street, since they've opened that one about 1.5 years ago, 3 of the houses next door have actually gone through some paint up, fix up, and remodel work. So it is kind of sparking some new growth or new light to that neighborhood.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. All right. It is a public hearing, and if we have anyone who wants to speak to this, you're welcome to do so. And council, comments or questions?
Just very interesting on the outside to look at this, and it would be fun to see the inside and see how it coordinates.
I have a question. So, a few questions for now. First, on the agenda bill as it was presented, usually it gives us what action P&Z took. Unless I missed it, was there a reason why it wasn't included?
No.
Is that okay? And so they did unanimously approve it for recommendation, a recommendation of approval to council. Part of their recommendation on November 4th was to set a max occupancy for the whole property to be 28 people. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Is that part of this CUP? Because I don't see it on the,
It's not the agenda, but let me see if we updated
I don't see it on the resolution that we have here.
You are
Unless-
correct. That would be an adjustment to section E, because it was multiple properties. Instead of doing 10 per unit, the commission looked at actual occupancy and said 28 for the property.
The property is subject to maximum, okay. Okay, and then one of my other questions is, so this is a conditional use permit to authorize a short-term rental unit. I am not understanding, so if we authorize a CUP for a short-term rental unit, is the unit considered, because I with my understanding, I thought there was a difference between the unit and the property. And the units are on top of the property, so are we only approving one out of technically the 4 that are here?
It is for all 4.
Okay. Okay, so it's just a little confusing to me if it's unit is singular, how we approve all 4 of them.
And the conditional use permit runs with the property. So it is a little confusing because we do have one property. Typically, we would not have 4 units that are considered single family. If this were not a grandfathered property to have 4 units, it would be zoned multifamily,
Right,
which they're allowed by right. A conditional use permit wouldn't be allowed. So
okay. So we can approve more than one CUP if it's on a single property
that's correct.
in one resolution altogether because of that grandfathered
Right.
ability. Okay,
Um,
that's all I have for now.
Yeah, my apologies. It's 6:24. We went into public hearing. Do I hear any other comments? Or we go out of public hearing at 6:28. All right. Is there a motion on this
I'll make a
matter?
motion that we approve resolution number 53-2021.
All right.
I'll second that.
Motion second. All in favor, if you'd let it be known by the raised hands, and it passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Okay, 6A, Ms. McElhenney.
Ordinance number 2022-01, an ordinance amending chapter 74 of the Code of Ordinances, City of Kerrville, Texas, titled Parks and Recreation by adding a new Article 3 Parkland dedication to include parkland dedication requirements for new residential development within the city and its extraterritorial jurisdiction, providing an effective date and providing other matters relating to the subject. There are no citizen speakers signed up. However, this is a public hearing.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Before you tonight are amendments regarding the parkland dedication ordinance. And just as a reminder and a refresher, if you're not aware, this is typically how we obtain parkland. It's either through the parkland dedication ordinance, through purchase of land, or through private donation. And so our dedication ordinance established in 1987. It was revised in 1991, and it has not been revised since then. So since it being nearly 30 years old or so, it's been about time for a rewrite, particularly since it was addressed in Kerrville 2050. This one that's been identified in multiple areas, asking for us to take a look at it and to bring it up to date. So this is identified in several spots in Kerrville 2050. Staff and the Parks Board began work on this in 2018, and it's coming to you today because we wanted to follow the adoption and approval of the subdivision code, since it dovetails right along beside it. There are several action items in Kerrville 2050, particularly in regards calling out the Parkland Dedication Ordinance, asking for us to rewrite it, amend the ordinance to further promote improvements in existing parks, and to focus on enhancing existing parks instead of acquiring new parkland. The Parks Board, as I said, has been looking at this since 2018. They had approved it twice. They approved it in March of 2019 and September of 2021. Because of the overturn in the board members who wanted to make sure all the board were up to date. So we presented it to them again, and the second group did approve it. A couple of recent enhancements utilizing the Parkland Dedication Fund is Carver Park, Louise Hayes Park, part of the dog park, a portion of the river trail in Louise Hayes, the new fencing that went in along and sidewalk connection at Louise Hayes Park as well. An overview of the ordinance. It's a development tool to enhance parks. According to city ordinance, developers can pay either a fee or dedicate parkland, which is then presented to the city and staff. It's up to the staff's discretion whether or not we want to accept the fees or accept the parkland, depending on the need in our park system. Priority is, as of late, has been to accept the fees in lieu of the parkland, because we do have a robust park system. We have a fantastic number of acres per population, and we're great where that sets. It's not intended to be the full source for funding parks. This is strictly for park improvements. It's not for operations and maintenance. Again, just a reminder that we are looking to accept, the priority over the parkland dedication for the fees, and parkland provides recreational opportunities for the quality of life of our citizens. Just a reiteration of that. Okay. Some of the major amendments that we included in this amendment change, we are proposing to extend the refund period from 5 years to 10 years. This will allow the accumulations of funds to create a higher fund balance. That way we can do more capital projects and major projects. We are expanding the districts. Highway 16 divides the community into sections of east or west, and as of now in the current ordinance, it's a half a mile on either side buffer, to where if you're half a mile on the east side, you can use the west side funds and vice versa. And we are looking to expand that to a mile on either side because it's a reasonable location within the park system for our community, and also updating the fees as they have not been updated in over 30 years. Which I will turn it over to Drew.
So this ordinance does remove the fees from the parkland ordinance and puts it back into the fee schedule, as you've seen with several other ordinance updates, since that's our current policy, to keep that as a budgetary item. rather than an ordinance regulation item. The current fees, again, were assessed back in '91. With some updates since then, but nothing really up to current standards. The current ordinance allows the developer to pay those fees at the time of the plat and the subdivision, or defer that to the building permit stage. Most of the projects that we've had defer it to the building permit, which means that fund is being built up in very small increments just based on building permits rather than the development of the project. The new ordinance is recommending that fee come in during the platting stage, so that there are larger sums coming in at once, and it's not strung out through the length of the development.
What do you mean by recommending?
The draft ordinance in front of you requires to be paid at the plat.
It's a require with
Yes.
plat.
And again, here's the current fees ranging between $250 to $450 per unit.
Okay.
You get those numbers.
So just kind of as comparison to other cities, Bernie, the fees range from $2,300 to $3,300 for their fees.
Per
New
unit?
Braunfels has I'm not sure what happened. The most recent copy of the presentation is not uploaded for some reason, but I have the numbers here that I can read to you. New Braunfels has a fee per unit, and they also have an additional park development fee on top of that. And it really varies per city. Every city is unique, and so there's not a cookie cutter set fee based on the city. They look at their city's needs differently. The market value in every city is different, and then they develop their own fees based on what's best for the community.
But there's no state thing that.
There's no state standard.
Okay.
And so the average statewide trend is on the low end around $200 to over $3,000, $3,300 is what we're seeing. So we fall.
And this is a one-time only fee that the developer pays for the end user, being whoever it is that, that winds up living or using that property, has access to our park systems, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Again, so those fees go into the Parkland Dedication Fund, and then depending on what side of town that is accrued, those capital dollars go back into improving parks on that side of the town,
Okay.
of the district.
So you do, so if it's, depending upon where that housing development is or those houses are built, it doesn't go into a general fund that
Correct.
could be used, it will be area specific for the town.
East or west based on Highway
Okay.
16.
Okay,
That's correct.
okay.
Okay, so staff's recommendation is approval of the ordinance and to update the fee schedule with these new fees in your budget amendment, which is going to be coming to you in the near future, and to open up a public hearing. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, council, do you have any comments or questions? I just want to say, one of the things that was mentioned in here was not having more pocket parks. And the idea there is, we've got 23 parks now. And each one of those requires maintenance and everything else. And so we've got our hands full with the parks we have now. Which, by the way, I get lots of compliments on the parks. People just love the parks.
Yes,
And
so we have
the disadvantage to the pocket parks is that if they become a hazard, wear and tear and that sort of thing, there's just more oversight at these city parks where maintenance is done regularly and that sort of thing. So, and there's a price for that.
That's correct. Pocket parks have a high maintenance cost because they are so small,
Mhm.
and then low utilization by the community. We have a great park system. We have 26 parks. We have nearly 1,000 acres of parkland, which is about 3 times the national standard recommendation for cities. So we're doing great as far as parkland, and that's why we are tending to side with the fees.
So Ashley, what do you do if you have a developer who says, I don't want to pay the fee and I'm going to give you this? How do you guys,
Well,
how do you handle that?
Sure. That really hasn't been the case. Most of the developers do want to pay, but if that were to be the case, the decision is the city's. It's very clear
Okay.
in the ordinance that we
Okay.
get to determine what we will accept.
Okay. Okay.
And that exists right now. That's not a change in this ordinance. That's been the case in this ordinance for the last 30 years.
The other question I would have, now you're going to be requiring it up front rather than piecemeal.
Right.
Is that, will that be accepted by contractors?
So
Developers?
Drew, you may want to speak to the process as far as kind of the three different
Right.
segments of development and how that'll be handled going forward.
So for single-family developments from the adoption of this ordinance moving forward, and I guess really under the current ordinance, the developers know that they have the option under the current ordinance to pay up front or defer to the building permits. Like I said, most of them choose to defer it currently because they do have that option.
Mhm.
We have had a handful pay up front with the plating process, but from the financial management of those funds on the east and west side, it just creates a slower growth to make those improvements. And really, you start getting a majority of those homes built before we get to make those improvements to the parks. So moving those up front on the residential side allows the park system to get the updates ahead of the development itself. On the multifamily projects, because we don't know the number of units at the time of the plat, those are going to be or stay with the building permit because those plans will change as those projects get fully developed from platting a single lot or 2 or 3 lots to actually building the projects. And then any lots that are currently platted that have deferred that payment to the building permit, they will still be required to pay those fees at the building permit because they did defer that under the current ordinance. It'll just be apply to the new plats moving forward.
We're not,
Go ahead.
You mentioned in the slide a proposed fee schedule. That's going to come to us separately, correct? So is that coming to us in January? When are we looking at this
Yeah,
fee
there'll be a
schedule?
mid-year budget adjustment that we usually have in the late winter time frame. So
Okay.
we'll determine that as we're working through the agenda process. As you recall, the council did approve fee schedule changes
Yeah.
in this current fiscal year
Right.
that did begin to move in that direction based off of the recommendations that had really already been received by Parks Board at that time. But it is we may be looking at a multi-year to be
That's
able
what
to
I was going to ask too.
to be able to phase it in, similar to
Okay.
what we've looked at in other scenarios, water rates and other pieces, just to be able to lend some direction as to where the desire from the community is to go in kind of a phased approach.
I would just like to have more. I mean, I know that y'all will do this. I would just like to have more information on fees before approving any kind of multi-year fee schedule. And I know y'all do that. I'm just throwing it out there. It's a little nebulous to me right now. So the more information I have about, not just what we're going to do this year, but if we're going to ladder this up over multi-years.
Absolutely.
And I assume when you bring us the proposed fee schedule, will y'all also show any type of estimated impact on our current budget that it'll have? Are we estimating anything?
Yeah, this one is a difficult one to estimate because
Sure.
it's really based off of the market and the development
Case by case
growth
thing.
expectations, and so that varies. No different than the way that we budget for the Development Services Fund. It's a little bit of a guessing game because we never know what permits are going to come in or what plats are going to come in. But we can provide at least some historical background on what we've collected in the past,
Perfect.
and that'll give you some flavor of the rough volume that we see.
Okay.
I was going to ask, what did we spend, say, over the past couple years? Just a ballpark figure?
Sure. So if you recall, we just we're about to spend about $70,000 on the Carver Park shade structure. The east balance has about $100,000, but we just spent about 70. We're about to spend 70 of that, and the west has about $27,000. So again, as city manager stated, it depends on the development, what's going on in the community. And again, we are wanting to ramp up the refund period from 5 years to 10 years so we can accrue more money to put it towards larger capital projects. It takes us a while to build up money to do something significant.
The essence of this ordinance essentially is for new development and new residents to make sure that they're paying their fair share for the park developments that existing residents have already paid for, right? And so there are new improvements that then are made to be able to accommodate new residents coming to town.
All right, council, any other questions?
In preparation for this item, I was trying to look for the most recent ordinance, and I couldn't find it in our code of ordinances. I don't know if that's for you, Mike. It's not in there?
It's not in the code.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Alright.
At 6:44, we open the public hearing. If there are others who want to make comments. Okay. 6:44, we close the public hearing, and do I hear a motion on this item?
I will move that we approve ordinance number 2022-01 on first reading.
I'll
All right.
second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor, raise hands, and it passes unanimously. All right, our financial report. Ms. Behrens?
Good afternoon. Merry Christmas almost. So because financials are typically reported the second meeting of every month, it's not quite time for me to be able to bring you November yet. So we're going to be looking at October financials today, which is really early on. So we'll talk about some of that. Next meeting in January, we'll be back up to date where we're reporting on the prior month. So you'll have a really up-to-date look at that. Also, remember that in the past, we've talked about an estimated budget or year-to-date budget where we kind of expect to be, and that's based on historical data so that we can kind of compare. It's really hard to compare a full year budget to what we are now, especially 1 month in. So we kind of take a look at where we think we'll be based on trends over the past couple of years and use that as our year-to-date baseline to kind of say whether we're doing, on track or not on track. So we'll talk about that as we go through as well. So start with the general fund here. And so property taxes are actually running ahead of our estimated budget, but 71,000 of that is coming from prior year taxes and penalty and interest. Those things are really hard to budget. We do budget for those, but it's really an unknown. So we budget for those just based on what we've seen in the past, but you saw last year in fiscal year 21 that we collected quite a bit more in those two categories. So that right now is kind of showing to be the trend. So we'll see how that tracks as we move along there. Sales tax as usual, looking really strong. We saw a little bit of a decline, if you want to call it that. So October was really strong at 17% over last year for August sales. November was at 8%, and this was after we adjusted for a really large out-of-period payment that was received ahead of schedule. We do have December's numbers in already, and adjusting those future period payments already, we're looking at about 11%. So still running, right around that 10% average mark. So doing really good there. We'll have more on that as we get more information from the comptroller so that we can make sure that what we're actually seeing as far as there's audit payments involved and some other things that we have to make sure we're accounting for an actual increase. So still strong in retail, food service, manufacturing, wholesale. Those are our strongest categories. Continue to be the same top categories every month. So this again is just a little bit different view that I've been trying to show over the last few months so that if you look at it next to your budget book, you can get a good idea of how it compares to how we budget things by category. So you can see that it lines up really nicely for the common user to lay it next to the budget book and see what's going on. Here's you can see that estimated 2022 second column there. That's kind of where we have identified we should be at this period of time. Keep in mind it's October, so we're kind of continuing on from last year's trends from what I can see so far, but it's really early in the year for me to be able to tell you anything really strong. I feel in January we'll be able to give you 3 months of good data, so look a lot better. Many of these items are affected by timing. So, for example, transfers in and out, franchise fees, those kind of things. A payment 1 or 2 days, one way or the other, can change where it falls in the month whenever we're reporting out financials. So,
would you explain intergovernmental?
Sure. So intergovernmental is going to include things like county EMS contracts. It'll include reimbursement that we receive from Kerrville ISD for our school resource officer that we provide over there. And that is a good example. So if the payment would have fallen, a couple of days later, then that revenue may have ended up in November. So you may see it swing the other way a little bit when we're talking just about November. But year to date, then you'll see that level out as we go on. We did end the year, fiscal year 21, ahead of budget there as well. So, there may be future payments that are going on or timing issues. So But again, a little bit too early to tell, but right now about $500,000 better on the revenue side. I added this graph here just to give you kind of a picture of where our money is coming from by percentage. So property tax, obviously, still up there as our top revenue source. Sales tax, 29%, so slightly behind. So nice to see those so close together. Sales tax, remember, helps us offset the burden of property tax. So we like that. If this is a view that you guys like to see, I'm happy to put it in every month. If it's something you feel like is too much, I'm happy to take it out. So just wanted to give you a little bit other variation for presentation
Yeah, I like it.
purposes. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, looking at the expense side, overall showing better than budget for the estimated period. Just remember it's 1 month, so not a good trend. I think in the next month they'll paint a much more clear picture of what we're gonna do. The service category here that is pretty high, you'll see better than budget of $245,000. Again, that's EMS charges, solid waste, both residential and at the landfill. So, okay. Same chart here on the expense side, just showing you by percentage. So in line with the budget, 69% of our expenses in the general fund related to personnel. We budgeted 70.5% of overall expenses, so tracking really well on budget there. So,
And these same pie charts are included in our budget, right?
no,
For
these
most
pie
of it?
charts are based specifically off of October's revenues and expenses.
So sorry, I didn't mean this one exactly, but I
Mhm.
mean in our budget book, usually when we look at the general fund summary for expenditures and revenue,
That's correct.
sometimes they have the pie chart, so we can like compare that way,
Right.
right? Perfect.
So you'll be able to have a pie chart like this by expense that kind of gives you a
Percentages
revenue and expense category about where money is allocated one way or the other on the revenue or the expense side. That's right.
Just want to let everybody know that. Thank
Yep.
you.
Sure. Okay, looking at the water fund, we are following kind of the same pattern that we saw as we closed out fiscal year 21. Keep in mind that October revenues here related to water, sewer, and reuse are all from September consumption because we bill a month behind. So you're not going to see the rate changes effective here because that won't go into effect. It went into effect with 11/1 billing, so for fiscal year 22 consumption, so starting in October. So still trending the same way, behind budget or behind estimated budget a little bit on the water side, but keep in mind July and August of 21 would have affected September consumption, and we had 4 inches more of rainfall in those 2 months than we did the prior year. So, again, water sales are just very, very weather dependent. So sewer sales, same kind of pattern. We're 22,000 better than where we thought we should be. But again, residential sewer average is a constant over the year once we set those rates. It would be a good time to remind you that January, February, and March bills, so consumption for December, January, and February, that's where residential sewer averaging is set. So if you're watering, that will affect your sewer average. So, okay. This is just a little bit more clear breakdown by category of revenues. So you can see here just what we talked about with a little worse than budget there on water sales, better than budget on sewer. The waste disposal side, we are worse than budget last year at the same month. Wastewater plant has let us know that there have been less drops this month. So it's good for us on the expense side because we're using fewer chemicals and less to treat the water. We don't know if that's any kind of developing trend or not. It was up all last year, so we'll just continue to watch and see how that trends. Also speaking to reuse sales being a little bit behind last year, we do know that last September there was a lot of overseeding going on multiple golf courses. We don't have that information now, so that could be a timing issue. So more to come on that as we move forward. So
On the water fund, under revenues, other, from the budget to actual, it's off $105. Why did y'all miss that?
I looked everywhere for that and I just can't find it. There's a $2 one in here somewhere. I noticed that today. I don't know. Should have rounded that. Okay, looking at the expense side of the water fund. Again, just 1 month in, but something kind of occurred to me a little earlier today, why we have to change from 2020 on some of these. If you remember, coming out of fiscal year 2020, we were on quite a bit of a hold there on expenses for a while. We weren't spending as much. We'd had some budget cuts. So October of 2020 spending was pretty high as we opened up the budget for fiscal year 21. So I think we'll see that level out pretty quickly too. So we're just spending less than we did because we had delayed so many things for so long, right? So. Okay, so the golf fund, once again, doesn't disappoint. They're having a really strong month already with nothing really major going on driving that up, just continued play. We have noticed quite a bit of difference in rounds being booked online since we've transitioned to a new software that has a bigger marketing reach, and we've been tracking that for a few months now, and we're continuing to see an uptick in that. So I think people have picked up the app. It's kind of more of a nationwide reach for golfers that play a little bit of everywhere. So Bobby says he's seeing some new faces and things like that, and then repeat players who've booked that are now booking through our website. So the good news is we're really close to a positive fund balance. So I feel pretty confident. I think we're within $30,000 as we ended the year of being in a positive fund balance. That's great news for golf. So yep, some good things
Julie,
happening over there.
what is the online app where people can
It's called Golf Now.
golf now?
And that's our new software provider. But for about the past, they bought out our existing software provider, the one that was providing service before us. So their app is just much better, and we can see it when it's booked and tracking it through the app and seeing a lot more rounds booked that way. So
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And they're also managing our website, so that also does include any bookings that happen through our golf website through the city.
They bought Tee Off? Is that what we were using?
We were using Easy Links, who used Tee Off as a
Okay.
booking mechanism. Yeah.
Okay.
Looking at Development Services Fund, they are running slightly behind what we estimated for budget. However, better on the revenue side than this time last year. As we discussed, we do have several big projects kicking off. I talked to Guillermo the end of last week, and he gave me some numbers on permits issued. So you can see there 45 commercial permits issued. These are in October, 135 residential, and 3 plan reviews. And one of those includes a multifamily unit. So we were kind of expecting to see some of these that didn't come all the way through in 21 start kicking off. So hoping to see that continue to progress. Hotel occupancy tax, 12% ahead of last year, about $13,000. So that's good to see this continuing to be strong as we saw it through fiscal year 21, and hoping that that will continue forward. We had a really good turnout for a river festival, and we have some really good events planned for fiscal year 22. So if all that can hold together, we expect this fund to be really strong. Few upcoming events. So Audit 3rd through 8th. Our auditors will be here on site and will be finalizing fiscal year 21 financial statements at that time. In February, we plan to bring to you a budget amendment once those financial statements have been audited. And then also in February, they'll be presenting the annual financial report to you. So our auditors will be doing that. And then in February, we'll be talking about budget. Any questions?
Okay, council, any questions?
Thank you.
No, I
Good
appreciate
report.
those additional graphs in there.
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay, do we have any speakers on this item?
No, sir, we don't.
Okay, all right. Okay, would you read in 8A?
City's ongoing preparedness in response to COVID-19 coronavirus and review of declaration of local state of disaster due to a public health emergency March 20th, 2020.
All right. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Give you a brief update. The last time I updated regarding COVID was the last meeting in October. One of the things we're looking at now for December 13th, the case count. So I talked about in October and definitely want to talk about that now. But in regards to Peterson Regional, some important things is that currently we have 4 hospitalized. That has been about the average in December. And we were down to 1 patient that was hospitalized on November 18th. So November we were very low, came down from those numbers that we remember back in September that were very close to 40. Actually, we did reach 40, even a little bit higher for that. So a much better number. That's a number that we're looking at and we're monitoring closely. I realize the active cases that are out there are being reported by the state are up and are very high. Up in perspective for that, is that, excuse me, on September 1st, we had 40 hospitalized and we had about 200 active cases reported at the state level. So the county reported over 400 active cases in Kerr County. We have 4 hospitalized. So I'm more apt to really kind of monitor the hospitalizations, watch the health care for the hospital, EMS, and regionally too. That impacts us more than anything, so but we are monitoring everything closely for that. The number of deaths are at 141 is what's reported at DSHS, and the recovered 6,703. Local update per the DSHS website. So the numbers did drop a little bit, but since our last meeting, they did add in the 5 to 11-year-olds, so that the numbers did drop. Currently, 48.2% of eligible residents are fully vaccinated. At the state level for all Texas residents, 60.4, so consistently 12% off, and that's been consistent throughout the vaccines for overall. The 65 plus residents that are fully vaccinated, we're at 66.5%, so that did climb up almost 2%, but overall Texas residents are at 83.4% for that same age group, but once again, that's been a pretty consistent across the board. Vaccinations by age, so there are over 50,000 that are eligible in Kerr County according to the DSHS website. And the biggest change that we really saw since the end of October meeting was the age group, the 5 to 11-year-olds, and 97 out of the 3,978 that are eligible received that. All the other groups moved up a little bit, but very kind of nominal. That was probably the largest overall that we saw in the group. Peterson Health, they had a clinic. They had a vaccine clinic on Saturday, December 4th. They did a total of 703 total vaccines on that day. They did at the Methodist Church, where we did those ones prior. Out of those 703, about 641 of those were a booster or additional dose. It depends which vaccine it was, and 33 were the pediatric dose, and then the remainder were either first or second dose. So, but a very small number of initial doses that were most for the booster, of course. And so bringing that back to the disaster declaration, so Governor Greg Abbott, so he renewed that again on November 27th. He's consistently done that at the end of each month. And so he renewed the COVID-19 disaster declaration. And our recommendation is to continue the Kerrville COVID-19 disaster declaration to remain consistent with the state of Texas as we continue to monitor and for the new variant and prepare for any surges. Questions?
Do you know, has the CDC somehow designated Kerr County with some kind of label or identity in terms of vulnerability? I had somebody write me about that and want to know why the city didn't say something about it, or Peterson Health. But anyway, I
Didn't
can't
see that
find
come across somewhere. The CDC has a lot of information. You can drill down a lot of that either on vaccines or the active cases. So it could be something there, but I didn't see anything specifically come across, or nothing that came up in our meetings either.
Okay.
But we're continuing to monitor. We're watching locally, we're watching regionally, we're on the regular calls there, and we're watching the healthcare system and making sure we keep everyone safe.
All right. Council, questions? Do we have any speakers? Okay.
Thank you, Chief.
Okay, thank you, Chief. Hey, just for 1 minute, I want to go back. Julie, on budget, when I came on board as mayor in 2018, we got these notepads, and over here it'd be the year's calendar. Now we're 2 years behind. Do you think you could squeeze the budget and get us some up-to-date?
There, I will scratch that out and change the year.
All right, okay. 8B, Ms. McLennan?
Authorize the city manager to enter into a service area agreement with Aqua Texas and to file the appropriate application to amend the city's certificate of convenience and necessity with the Public Utility Commission of Texas.
All right, Mr. Barron.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Here tonight to ask the council authorize city manager into a contract with Aqua Texas for a joint service area along the Kerrville South area between
the city of Kerrville and Aqua, Texas. What is a CCN? Our CCN, like all CCNs in the state of Texas, gives an agency, a municipality or city, or a private-owned utility the right to sell water in a specific area. Kerrville South borders the city of Kerrville in the Kerrville South area. It's actually Aqua, Texas now. They've sold to Aqua, Texas a few years ago. And I'll show you all some maps here in just a minute. But what we've done is gone in and said, hey, we join each other in a couple different places. It makes sense for us to allow the customer, whoever wants to use the water service, to pick which one they want, mainly because of fire protection. Along that side, there's been a lot of interested developers in that area. The city requires them to have fire protection for a new development, and without us providing that service, Aqua Texas does not. They are only required to serve water, and they don't have to have fire protection. So that's one of the pros. Another one is that we'll have additional customers in the area, so we'll be able to serve more people, maybe new development, maybe existing customers that want fire protection, that want to extend the main out there. They can also have water service from us. And the big issue there is, they say, well, why don't y'all just allow customers to install these fire mains and not have service off of them? The water gets old in the mains and it goes bad. And we don't want those connected to the rest of our city network with the potential of contaminating it. So we really need those customers to have consumption as well as fire protection. The only con that's really associated with this is that we don't have full control of the CCN in that area.
Would you explain CCN?
The CCN is the state's basically permit for a municipality or a publicly owned or privately owned utility to sell water, potable drinking water, to their service area. And we'll have some maps with that. And same thing that happened to Ashley's happened to me. I have a different presentation than the one I was hoping for tonight. So, but it has all the right maps. So we'll continue on. This particular map here is the joint service area. This kind of goes down. You'll see Sidney Baker, and then it also the salmon color is Kerrville South, which is now Aqua, Texas. Originally was Kerrville South Water System, and now it's purchased by Aqua, Texas. They adjoin the city of Kerrville. The city of Kerrville is shown in green, and the area in, make sure it's the right color up there, is purple, and kind of white would be the joint service area.
The proposed?
The proposed, yes, ma'am. So what we've done is gone and talked to them and said, hey, well, there's some, you'll see within that joint service area where the dual CCN, you see a place in there that has, looks like an aerial with some lighter colors. Actually the Brinkman Mansion on the top of the hill. It's actually served by both water systems right now. And then there's a few different areas in there that Aqua Texas is selling on one side and we're selling on the other side of the street. So it's already very commingled. And what we're trying to do is say, hey, we're not going to lose any customers. You keep all your existing customers. We'll keep all of our existing customers. But as development comes on in the neighborhoods and they would have to extend water mains or have fire protection, we give them the right, even within Aqua Texas's CCN, for the city to sell them water. And so far, Aqua Texas has been agreeable to that.
So right now, this is under Aqua Texas, and we're wanting to be in a dual CCN situation.
Currently, the salmon color there is all Aqua Texas, and the green is the city of Kerrville. And they kind of intermingle.
The one that you have though, that's all the proposed area underneath, it's that salmon color, correct? So right now, that's
not all of it. There's
okay.
Some green up there you'll see, but yes, the majority of it
most of it.
And
okay.
therefore, they did ask us. That's my next slide.
Okay.
But yeah, the majority of this is in Aqua Texas' service area.
Oh, okay.
There's a little bit of green down below.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
So this wouldn't allow any existing customer to switch over, just new owners, developers.
It would allow them to switch over if they wanted
Why
to,
would they?
but it's not mandated.
Okay.
And so they would stay with their existing customers.
So for new developers, what's the process for them to go and choose who they want to?
Do they need
If
the
this
fire
gets approved
protection?
by both council and Aqua Texas, then the developer says, I want to use this water provider.
Okay.
Either one within that area. The city's going to require them to have fire protection. And so more than likely they're gonna come to the city because Aqua
Tell us
Texas is not required by state law and does not provide fire protection.
Mhm.
But there are instances, perhaps in some of these areas where there might be residential estates
They
and
just need
they
a
don't
well
need
or
fire
something.
protection.
Yeah.
And so they would still have the option to utilize Aqua if they so choose to.
Okay.
So Aqua Texas did ask us to consider another area that they would like in exchange. As you saw on that previous map, they're giving up quite a bit of their service, or a little bit of their service area, and they said they have some wells out towards Ingram that are very close to the edge of their CCN. And with the groundwater rules say that if your well's too close to the edge, you can't pump as much water as if they were more in the middle. And so they've identified this tract, which is out by Ingram, and said, you know, we would like to have a little bit more service area out there. We looked at this tract. A lot of it is built out already. There's small ranchettes out there, and it's way away from our water system and outside of our reach of pressure and other issues without a huge expansion in the area covering a big gap. Well, let me show you where these two lie. We wouldn't be able to serve them. So in principle, we said, hey, this makes sense to us. Let's take it to our council, find out if they're agreeable. The Kerrville South thing really works well for us because there's a lot of development there, a lot of fire protection. The area out by Ingram was made the deal work.
So, you're proposing that Kerrville South area, but not the Ingram.
Yes, sir. The Ingram, we would just give up our rights to sell water out there. And if you look, we can drill down into that if you'd like. I don't have the map here, but as you look at it, they're already fairly small tracts of land out there. They're not big tracts anymore where they're going to have big developments coming in there. And you can see how far away from the city limits it is, or at least the city limits is the black line on the map, and then also the rest of our CCN area. It doesn't even connect. I have the little green line there, so you can see how it potentially could connect, but that's a lot of pipe to put in to serve that area. It's a higher pressure plane, different. There's a number of different reasons that we wouldn't move that direction.
Okay. Council, do you have questions?
You could say win-win and make sense.
Yeah. Do you have anyone signed up to speak to this matter?
Just
Oh,
that
yeah, go
little
ahead.
area there where Junction Highway is, where it goes from yellow to pink. That little west area there, on Junction Highway.
Okay.
Down toward the bottom of the map?
It's kind of in the center. Go to Junction Highway, go all the way to the left to where it changes from yellow to pink.
Okay.
Now
Center
there,
of the map, right? In the
left
center.
side, yeah, center towards the left. Now that little area of pink, they're wanting to take that and provide water service there in that little pink area that
The part
used to
inside
be
the
yellow.
city limits, it's right above the Junction Highway label.
Yes.
That is actually Mill Run, and that particular area is served by Marymead. It's not Aqua Texas. It's a different water system, but it's currently served by a different provider, and it is not the city of Kerrville.
Okay.
The area we're talking about is the area that's kind of outlined in blue that's above that.
Yes.
It's well outside of the city limits. In fact, I think part of that's even outside of the ETJ area.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So we had primarily the CC in there already.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
They primarily had the CCN
Mhm.
on the Lehman Drive property.
Right. And
Yes, ma'am.
Makes
each
a little more
entity-
sense in looking at it that likely it's more beneficial for the people in the Lehman Drive area to utilize city water. And in the future, the people in the west would more likely be better off served by Aqua
Yes.
Texas.
Correct.
We've got the new senior tax assisted development going in there as well.
That's right. And that's one of the properties, as you recall, that needs fire service. It's a great example of it. They need fire service, they need utility service, and so they need to come into the city. But in order to do that, they need to be able to get out of or have another option for the CCN, which is currently Aqua.
Yeah, okay, all right.
Is it more costly for an owner or a developer to go in and use the city only because they need, or not city only, choose the city because they need those fire services from us?
So our
I'm just trying to get an understanding of the shared portion of it and understand why it's proposed that way instead of the city gets that and Aqua Texas gets the other part.
To answer the second question first is they have a lot of customers right now in this shared area. And in order for us to allow them to leave those customers, and we'd have to put all new service lines in and install those new mains, we thought it was more advantageous for us to leave all their existing stuff, all their existing customers. We don't have to offer to buy them out, which is typically done in this situation. Is the city they come up with a number, and the city either decides to pay for it or not. And then in this particular situation, we would have to install new mains to get the right fire protection and fire flow. So it would be a double cost to us. So we've come up with this idea of saying, hey, y'all keep all your customers, you keep all your infrastructure, and as the people come in, we will require them to install city mains, which is a little bit more of a cost because they're not installing as big a city or as big an infrastructure in their system as we require. However, we do have fire protection, and that's their benefit.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Do we have anyone signed up to speak to this?
No, sir.
Okay. All right. Do I hear a motion on this matter?
I will move that we authorize the city manager to finalize and execute the agreement with Aqua Texas.
Okay. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor, let it be known by the raised hand. Okay, and it passes unanimously. Now, on 8C, we're going to deal with that in executive session, correct?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay. All right. And the same on 8D, okay?
Yes.
Do we need to go into executive session for that again?
Let me ask you, we can do this two ways. We can go to board appointments and the rest of the issues and then go to executive session, or we can break for executive session. What is best?
I would suggest finish the rest of the agenda and then executive session for what's ever needed.
I agree.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so 9A.
Well, I had a question because I thought we discussed 8D was also on our workshop agenda for executive session, and we talked about that. Do we still have anything else to discuss in executive session, or we
I
good
don't think
to
we do. I think
we can do
I think
it.
we can
move
do it
forward
right
with the
here.
votes?
Are you ready, Ms. Igan?
I am. Let me find
Okay.
my
Yeah, for AD.
my sheet. I moved it out of the way. Here it is. Okay, for 8D then, Shelley, do you need to read
Yeah,
that in
read
for
that
us?
in.
Resolution number 52-2021, a resolution casting votes of the city of Kerrville, Texas for Kerr Central Appraisal District Board of Directors.
Okay, I would recommend, we have 661 votes that we need to distribute. And my recommendation would be, and I'll read the names and then the amount of votes. Essentially, what I'm recommending is we take our 661 votes and spread them evenly amongst the 7 people. So what it amounts to is that 4 of them get 94 votes and 4 of them get 95 votes. So Bruce Cartwright for Kerr County would have 94. Carter Crane for Hunt ISD would have 95. Patrick Friedel, Kerrville ISD, 95. Eric Lance, Kerr County, 94. Larry Prio, Kerr County, 94. Jeff Tallarico, Kerrville ISD, 95. And Judy Webb Smith, Kerr County, 94.
And that is your motion.
That is my motion.
Okay. Is any discussion on that?
Fine.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right. All in favor of that motion, if you let me know by the raised hand. Okay, and that carries unanimously. I must say, the right side of the council needs to catch up with the left side in terms of motions
They'll be
and
quiet.
seconds. Okay, it's uneven. All right. Read down, if you would, 9A.
Appointments to Library Advisory Board.
Okay. Council discussion?
Yes, I visited with both applicants. They are both well qualified, and I thank them for submitting their application and wanting to serve, and wanted to go ahead and move that we appoint Megan Bean for reappointment and Melinda Stewart for appointment to the Library Advisory Board.
I'd like to second that, Mayor.
Good, good. All right. Okay, discussion, comments? Anything, anybody signed up?
No, sir.
Okay, okay, got a motion, second, all in favor, let it be known by the raised hand, and it passes unanimously. Okay, and 9B,
Appointments to the Recovery Community Coalition.
okay,
Okay, I will speak to this first, and Mr. Garcia, jump in if, when and if. What we would like to do is not make any appointments at this time. And the reason is, it has nothing to do with the applicants. They are qualified. What it has to do with is taking a close look at this committee. They have 15 members, and right now they have 7 vacancies. And in visiting with various people, we're thinking that maybe 15 members is really too many. The other rather unique thing about this committee is that everyone who is appointed has to meet a certain qualification. They have to belong to either they're with sober living or
Certain category.
yeah, a certain category. Thank you. And we just think that maybe it's just a little cumbersome, and that maybe we could make some changes. And we just feel like we need to look at this in the future. We would keep these 2 names, absolutely. And again, it has nothing to do with them. It's the overall committee.
Do they struggle to get a quorum?
Yes,
Yes.
they do. They do.
Similar.
And-
Sorry, I'll let you finish.
Go ahead.
No,
No,
I was
go
gonna say similar to what we had at our last meeting with the
Mhm.
Building Board of Adjustments and Appeals, and they have to meet those criteria or the category for the qualifications. It's similar to this, and then as Councilmember Eichner alluded to as well, they have sometimes a struggle getting members applying, and then also a quorum. Some of their meetings have to be canceled. So we were gonna propose to not make any appointments, but to, like she said, keep the applicants on file for however long we can. And then Councilmember Eichner and I would kind of work together and meet with the staff liaison, which we believe is Chief Maloney, and then other relative staff members, maybe EA, and then the current board or coalition chair and the previous chair, who have been very involved and understand the concept of this coalition. So that's all I had to add to that.
all right, okay. Any further comment, council or public? All right, then I think this is one we won't take action on.
We'll just-
And you'll come back to us.
Yes.
Okay, 9C, Ms. McElhannon.
Appointments to the Planning and Zoning Commission.
That's executive session.
What?
That one's eligible for executive session as well.
Oh, yeah, okay. 9C's can be a part of our executive session, okay. And D, on TERS, that can also be an executive session.
And then we're down to executive
So I
session.
think we are, yeah. Do I hear a motion to go into executive session?
Yes, Mayor, I'll move to go into executive session under section 551.071. That's for, 551.074 for the municipal judges, planning P&Z, as well as the TERS board.
Okay. All right, do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Motion and a second. And all in favor, if you let me know with a raised hand. So we will be out in executive session. Hard to know. It's probably not going to be long, but anyway. And then we'll come back and report anything out of that executive session. Executive session is over, and we're in the open session. Okay. We have 3 reports out, and I'm going to ask Ms. Eichner for the first one.
This has to do with excuse me, municipal court judges. And the motion is not to reappoint Judge Mark Prislovsky as municipal court judge for the city pursuant to his notice of resignation, such action to take effect as of January 1st, 2022. And the second part of that same motion, to reappoint Judge Patrick McGuire as the presiding judge for the city's municipal court.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor, raised hands, and that motion carries. Ms. Clarkson?
Yes, this is for planning and zoning appointments. I move that we appoint Kevin Bernhard, Abram Boucher, and Jeff Harris to the Planning and Zoning Commission.
And I'll second that.
Okay, we've got a motion second. All in favor, let it be known by the raised hand, and it carries unanimously. Okay, Mr. Garcia?
On our agenda tonight, we had the appointment of a chair for the TERS board. We also realized that we are also required to and responsible for appointing a vice chair. So we're going to go ahead and hold this off to our first meeting in January and appoint the chair and the vice chair at the same meeting. So there's no action to take tonight.
All right. Do we have any items for future agenda? Okay, if not,
I'm sorry. Oh no, never mind. I didn't. I was going to say if we were to ask staff to come back to us and tell us if we need to do the vice chair, but they told us.
Yep.
So
Okay.
no, there's nothing for me.
yeah, all right. Okay. In light of that, we're adjourned at 7:41.